Welcome to Successful Philanthropy. I'm your host, Jean Shafiroff. This show is designed to highlight the work of leaders here in the United States and then beyond. Today with us, Josh Fox, and Josh is a businessman and philanthropist. Let's all welcome Josh Fox. And Josh, it is so nice to have you on Successful Philanthropy. And I first want to start with a little bit about your background. You, 15 years ago, started your own company. Tell us a little bit about what that was like and what you do today.
Jean, it's great to be with you. It's great to talk with you. And you're such an inspiration to so many people around the world. So thank you for having me on today.
Yes, and now you started a company 15 years ago. Can you tell us a little bit about that company?
Yeah, so I was living in New York City and it was 2008. And some of your listeners may remember the Great Recession of 2008, when the economy in the world fell apart due to the mortgage meltdown. And things were really, really scary in our world and in our country, where what I had seen was major corporations like Fortune 500 companies were desperately trying to save money in 2008. And they were just letting go of 10, 20, 30, 40% of their workforce because that was the quickest, simplest way to save money. And so I came up with this business idea about 15 years ago called Bottom Line, where I said there had to be a better way for businesses to save money without cutting headcount. And so I started this company. We have come up with, a couple of dozen different really creative ways to either find companies past refunds or future savings to be able to help their bottom line so that they can keep their employees and we could help with the unemployment rate.
I think it's wonderful what you've done. And from what I've read, you now employ about 300 people and obviously are doing a lot of good work for a lot of companies. And I can't think of any company out there that doesn't want to try to reduce expenditures if it means they can become more successful. And I would guess 90% of cases when you reduce expenditures, well, you become more successful. Now, you have this company and you decided also, besides being a successful businessman, that you wanted to give money back to the community. So you started a foundation, the Brady Hunter Foundation. Tell us a little bit about that foundation and why you decided to start it.
Jean, the first picture that I think I still have a record of myself as a child in my crib was a picture of my parents' dog at the time, where the tongue was kissing me, was licking my face as a baby in the crib. And that was the first picture I have of myself, is a dog licking myself in the crib. And that was the moment I think that I just loved animals. I've loved animals since the day I was born. And I had a dog named Brady, who was really named after Tom Brady, because I went to the University of Michigan and I just always was inspired by Tom and what he did personally and professionally, and knew him back at the University of Michigan. And so I named my dog Brady. He lived 16 years and he was literally my best friend. And when he passed about 2 years ago, I really wanted to start a foundation in his memory and continue some kind of legacy to pay homage and pay, respects to the love that he gave me as my best friend and my dog. My other dog's name is Hunter. Thank God he's still alive. He's 12 years old. So I started the Brady Hunter Foundation in memory of Brady and in my love of Hunter. And, what the mission of the foundation is to help the voiceless. There's so many animals around the world that don't have a voice. And the other part of the foundation is helping children. So it's animals and children are the main pillars of the foundation. And when you're a young child or you're an animal, you just don't have the same voice that we do as adults. We can't communicate as well as children. We definitely can't communicate as an animal. So I wanted to be the voice of the voiceless.
And I love that. I think that's so incredibly important because Well, animals can't speak and young children can't defend themselves. And here you are, you've started this Brady Hunter Foundation to help animals and children. Now, starting a foundation or having a foundation is a responsibility. And for those watching this show, many of you may have foundations, or you might be thinking of starting a charitable foundation. You've made a little money and you want to give back. And I think it's a great thing. Without getting personal, we have a family foundation, and that's all I want to say. And when you give, you feel greatly rewarded. When you give, you get. And Josh, what advice would you give to somebody watching this show who wants to start a foundation but has no idea how to begin?
I mean, first of all, Gene, I was just going to say essentially what you said. In my life, whenever I've gotten gifts like for birthdays or holidays, lots of times I don't even like the gift that I get. And you almost feel bad sometimes when you get a gift from somebody that you know you're not going to use or that you don't like. But when the opposite happens, when you give a gift, there's just something different about the feeling of giving versus getting that nobody can take away from you. And when I do these events and I do these, all the different, it really is just the events that we put on. We're doing like usually at least one or two a week. There's just something special in your heart and in your brain that changes when you're at an event and you know you're giving back to people that need it. And what I would say is you have to have the right team. This is not something that I do on my own. We have a phenomenal group of people at the Brady Hunter Foundation that are working full-time, tirelessly, like 7 days a week to fulfill the mission that we have at the Brady Hunter Foundation. So if you're going to start a foundation, you've got to find those one or two people that are like your anchor team members to start the foundation. Don't go at it alone, and then continue to build out the team with people who truly care and will put others before themselves.
Well, you have a foundation just to give away money, as my family does. I think it's key to get a good legal team to create the foundation, and they don't have to be full-time, but you can't just go out and do it on your own, as Josh has said. And Josh has a big foundation and he has a team working for that Brady Hunter Foundation. Josh, can you speak a little bit about some of the things that the Brady Hunter Foundation has financed and why you do what you do?
Yeah, I mean, for example, this past weekend, we did a partnership many months ago with Feeding South Florida. I live in Southern Florida. The foundation is in Southern Florida. And Feeding South Florida is an organization that feeds almost 1 million hungry people every year in Florida. So we went out and we purchased an 18-wheeler truck, which has Feeding South Florida's logo on it. It has our Brady Hunter Foundation logo on it. And this past weekend, we do it every month. We went to a park. We had, I think it was 425 different cars drove up. We packaged the food, we distributed the food, we put it in people's trunks, and they take it home to their family. And it felt so awesome during the holiday season to be able to feed that many families in need. That's just one example. We did a partnership with the South Florida Wildlife Center here in Fort Lauderdale. And when I met these people, they were incredible. What they do is they get calls every single day, Gene, by injured wild animals. They'll find a bird that was, hooked by a fish hook. They'll find a turtle that was hit by a car. They'll find an opossum nest where the mother's been killed and the babies can't survive without, help. And an ambulance will go out and pick up these injured animals. And when I met the people at the South Florida Wildlife Center, I said, what do you need? How can I help you immediately? And they said, if we have a second ambulance and a second driver that can attend to these calls that we get, the amount of more animals that we can save can basically double. So we went out and we bought a brand new ambulance. We decided to pay for the salary for the first year driver. And this ambulance is out there every day, fielding calls, picking up wild injured animals, rehabilitating them, and releasing them back into the wild.
And that's all wonderful work. Now, Josh, you've also done a lot of work in the Hamptons, giving back to the community, and I guess in other parts of the country and the world. I know, as a matter of fact. And what do you look for when you decide on a particular charity to give money to?
I think the most important thing to us is we want to make an immediate impact. We don't want to do something that will have an impact for 5 or 10 years from now, although that's important. I'm not, downplaying that the future is important, but we've really tried to focus on causes and foundations where if we gave a donation or a time of money or time, that we're going to make an immediate impact. And so that's really important to us.
And yes, you've looked for groups that need the money now because they are doing work that needs to be financed right now. And that's what I'm hearing from you, correct?
Yeah, like the David Sherlock Wildlife in Africa, they help elephants. And we decided to buy a vehicle for them that they have a team, a mobilized team that goes out and helps with these elephants that are out there. So again, it was like some kind of immediate need. There's another group in Africa that was really in desperate need of a drone. These are ex-military people that they said if they had another drone, they could save these animals from being poached. So they have military tactics with this drone. And literally the next day we went out and gave them the money for this drone. So it's that kind of stuff. And it's literally, as you said, Gene, we're doing this from South Florida to South Africa. I mean, that's how far our foundation reaches.
And how do you follow up and how do you know? Because people often say, well, how do I know the money that I'm giving is actually going to what the group is saying they're going to use the money for?
We get pictures, we get updates, we get videos, we have update calls. I mean, we really stay on top of the partners that we work with.
Which is so important because most charities and most groups are well run, but there is a small percentage that maybe is not using money wisely. And that percentage is probably less than 1%, because here in the United States, 501c3s or charities are required to file 990 forms with the US government. And what is a 990 form? Well, it's a profit and loss statement for the year. Just the way an individual would file a 1040 form, the charities have to file a 990 form. And I think it's a good thing because it ensures that these groups are using the money wisely. They may be raising money for projects outside of the United States, which is all good and wonderful, and I think very important. But the 990 form filed with the United States is very, very important. Now, Josh, getting back to some of your Southampton interest, what exactly, or you don't have to say, but if you want to talk about some of the projects you've funded in Southampton and in the Hamptons, that would be wonderful, because this show will air in the Hamptons and everyone's very curious about the Brady Hunter Foundation and what it does. I know you do good work, but I want our audience to also know about all the good work you've done in the Hamptons.
Yeah, we had a fun event this past summer. It was really a creative event called the Shampooch. And it's an annual event where basically people will pay to either have their cars cleaned or their dogs washed, and then they make a donation to charities. And it's just such a great name. It's so creative. And, we went out this summer on a beautiful day in the Hamptons and we had a Shampooch.
Well, that's just one of the things you've done. And I know you've been generous to Southampton Animal Shelter and other groups, and I want to thank you for that. Now, for our audience, we are with Josh Fox. He is a businessman and a philanthropist. His foundation is the Brady Hunter Foundation. It primarily is a foundation that supports the voiceless, animals and then children. And are you thinking about branching into other areas? And maybe you have already, but I think I think it's great that you have a focus and that you're actually making a big impact. And as you said earlier, you're interested in giving the money where you can see immediate results. And in a way, that's great because you know that the money is going to be used wisely because you need to get a report right away after, I'm assuming, as you mentioned.
Yeah, so our bigger project, Gene, that we have been working on and really are trying to get off the ground is we want to open up our own animal sanctuary, both in the state of Florida and in the state of New York, where, we can get these calls where, basically abused animals need to be given a safe place to live and thrive. And our entire tagline, Gene, is all species are created equal. So yesterday I was at one of our partners' sanctuary, the Lucky Horse Sanctuary, and she has about 70 animals right now. She's an incredible person. I mean, she has pigs and goats and sheeps and horses and all these different diverse animals that are there. And that's the vision that I have, and that's really where we're focusing on in 2024 to open up additional animal sanctuaries to be able to help abused animals live a safe life.
And have you thought of a place in Florida where this sanctuary would be?
Yeah, there's only certain places where they're zoned for these types of places. So we are looking at a few different cities, but these are big projects. You have to buy land and you have to build barns and places for these animals to live. So it's something that we really, really are excited about, but we want to be careful and cautious to do it the right way.
Sure, it's a big project, but a very noble project, and I think a very needed project. And what I also love about what you do is you're bringing visibility to the causes you support. And can you discuss a little bit about how important visibility is for the Brady Hunter Foundation? And not just because you want anyone or people to know about what you do, but more because of your interest in promoting a cause and the work that can be done.
Yeah, I mean, education and awareness is absolutely essential in doing something like we're doing in our mission. So, for example, we've done some beach cleanups in the Hamptons and we've done some beach cleanups in Florida. And when we put these videos or these pictures up of us cleaning up the beach, I mean, literally getting our hands dirty and picking up trash and plastic off the shorelines, it's amazing how many people, when we put it on social media, will see us after we've done this and say, I'm inspired by you. I'm going to do this in my town. I'm going to do this in my city, or I would like to come to the one that you do in your area. So it's about really raising awareness and getting people to give their time and their effort. And I think that's the thing about philanthropy that, people miss, is that it doesn't necessarily require money. It requires your time and your love. And if you're willing to give some time and devotion, you can come to a beach cleanup every week and really help out.
Speaking of philanthropy, and we are speaking completely about philanthropy, I wrote a book on philanthropy called Successful Philanthropy: How to Make a Life by What You Give, with an introduction by Georgina Bloomberg. Now, why did I write this book? The premise of my book is that anyone can be a philanthropist. If you don't have the money, you can give your time and your knowledge. And if you look at the history of the United States, well, we are a country based on philanthropy. Philanthropy goes way back to our beginnings. That being said, if you do have the money, I believe you have an obligation to give, but anyone can be a philanthropist. That's the premise of my book, Successful Philanthropy: How to Make a Life by What You Give. And I want to say one other thing. We are in a country where volunteers really matter and really create great change. We see all over the United States people driving ambulances as volunteers. They're working in fire departments as volunteers. They're working in schools, class mothers, people working on annual giving campaigns. We see many people volunteering for groups like the American Red Cross, the American Heart Association, The key is to find a passion, something you want to do, get out there and volunteer. Now, you might say, I have 3 children, I have a full-time job, I'm struggling. So my response is, do what you can when you can. If you don't have a lot of time now to volunteer, you take a step back, but maybe you can devote an hour or two a month or a few times a year, but try to do something, because just as our guest Josh Fox said, I say the same thing. When you give, you get. It is so incredibly rewarding. And another thing, never feel that you have nothing to offer. We all have valuable resources. As a volunteer, you're going to want to be treated with dignity and respect. All people count. We all have something to offer. So never think, well, what do I know? What can I possibly give? Another thing I want to say, many people become empty nesters. All of a sudden, women find they don't have any children in the house. They're not working. Men retire. Well, most people that become empty nesters and retire, they're very smart. And most of us, we have time. So get out there, think about volunteering, and do something you truly love. Now, getting back to Josh Fox, he is a very successful businessman. He started the Brady Hunter Foundation. He's helping animal groups and underprivileged groups, especially related to children all over the world. Josh, what motivates you?
I'm motivated by seeing the results of the foundation. It's, again, I kind of mentioned earlier, like we get these updates, we get these annual updates, we get these videos, we get these, pictures of the results that we saw. Like we saved 174 donkeys that were just being abused, and we got these donkeys shipped to a sanctuary to relieve them. And when the pictures came in of these donkeys in transit and then in a safe place, I mean, if that doesn't touch your heart and doesn't make you feel incredible about what you're doing, I don't know what will.
And I agree. When we see the results of the work we do, you see you've changed a life, or you've changed many lives, whether it be the lives of people or animals. It all is wonderful. Josh, we have a few minutes left. And one of the things I always like to ask my guests, especially successful people like you, and there are many successful people out there, but you seem especially successful. What advice do you give to a young person just starting career? How do they go about becoming a success?
I think the number one thing that you could do on the school, like university level, is networking. It's, as the old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's the lifelong relationships that you can build as a young person that will carry through with your life. I mean, when I look at my company and the people that are here, there's lots of people that work at the company that I've known for 20 or 30 years, literally. Like I was, in middle school with some of these folks. I was in high school with some of these folks. And, the networking is so important. Like, be kind. Like that's my favorite word is kindness. It takes as much effort to be kind to someone or to an animal as it does to be mean. So why not choose kindness? And people remember that, when they say that person was a really kind person. Like, what better compliment in life can you get than someone associating you with the word kindness?
I love that. I truly believe in everything you're saying. And I give my advice to someone young. Well, like Josh, you have to get out there, not only network. He's a kind person, he's a successful person, but he got there, I'm sure, because of hard work, honesty, and integrity as well. And you would agree with that, Josh, correct?
Yeah, I would say, listen, in business for a second, most people are going to work 9 to 5. Like that's a given. So if you want to, go ahead, you want to succeed ahead, you want to be different than others, there was lots and lots of nights that I would work, 18 hours a day, because when you love what you do and you have a passion for what you do, you just don't look at it as work. So, there were more hours that I was working than I was doing anything else. And you tend to spend more time with the people that you work with than even your own friends and family. So surround yourself at work and through your philanthropic work with people that you want to spend time with.
And that you trust. And Josh, this is so fascinating and so important. Your advice is really key. And when I think of just about every successful person, I think of long hours, hard work, and belief in what you do. And of course, honesty, integrity, kindness. And also, if you're a kind person, chances are you're going to be a nice person too, because how can you be kind without being nice? So, Josh, finally, we have a few minutes left, just a minute left. What would you like to leave our audience with?
I love the word legacy, and I think that's what drives me in my philanthropy work is, leaving a legacy behind to your children, to your grandchildren, to your friends, that, when people say, what did that person do in their life and what legacy did they leave behind? You would want them to think of the generosity and the things that we're doing through the Brady Hunter Foundation and through philanthropy. For me, that's everything, is leaving a legacy that's positive.
And I love that because, as most of us know, we're not going to be remembered for perhaps, I don't know, the job or the vacation we took, but we will be remembered for the good works we did. And we have a prime example of a wonderfully successful man and a man who does a lot of good, Josh Fox. This concludes Successful Philanthropy. Our guest today, Josh Fox. He is a businessman and philanthropist who is the founder of the Brady Hunter Foundation. I'm Jean Shafiroff, your host. I'll see you next week.